Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Miami-Dade College, Kendall campus for the Institute of Maya. When you're ready, back there. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Miami-Dade College, Kendall campus for the Institute of Maya Studies October General Meeting. I'm Rich Slasek, President of the Institute of Maya Studies. We want to thank Miami-Dade College for the opportunity they've given IMS to participate as a community partner. A little bit of housekeeping. We do this on meetings just so that you know what's going on with the organization. The recent Maya Playa Conference in Palm Coast, Florida was again an overwhelming success this year, both for the conference and for IMS. As always, the archaeologists lecturing were phenomenal. We made many new friends and contacts. Some of them that will visit us at Miami-Dade College here in 2016. Most importantly, we received donations in excess of $1,200, signed up a new member and renewed some others. I would like to remind our members, MDC staff and students to visit our website and Facebook for more information on Mesoamerican topics and sites. Tonight is our general meeting. It'll be Cotton and Mesoamerica, and the speaker will be introduced shortly. Just wanted to let you know that our next meeting, which is our Explorer meeting, which would have been November 11th, has been moved to November 25th. So it'll be, instead of being the second week of November, it'll be the fourth week of November. Third week of November, we have a great speaker. And if I can, here we go. We have
it's Gabby.
Yeah, it is Gabby, but I had it up here. Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. It's Animation Ceremonies and Feeding the Gods, an exploration of incense burner rituals of the Northern Lowland Maya with Dr. Gabrielle Vale. She's New College of Florida and the Florida Institute for Hieroglyphic Research. So that is November 18th. Okay, with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Marta to introduce our speaker.
Very good. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see some new faces, and we welcome you. As Rick told you everything about the Institute of Maya Studies, so it's my turn because I am the program chair to introduce you to our speaker. Keith is, as you can see, the webmaster, but slowly but surely he has introduced himself as a key member of our board in so many facets. Keith, last week for those who came, I talked a lot about ancestors and calling the ancestors and the ancestors coming back to us. Well, he is, it seems, a reincarnation of one of his ancestors who was an archaeologist for Harvard University in the 1910s. Yeah. And he was the first to discover and work in many, many sites. And one of the nicest things, because he is a techie and somebody that knows all the systems about everything, he was able to accompany the chief archaeologist in one of those sites, which is called Old Moon, in northern Guatemala, to install lighting and LED lighting in that site. So the site that his ancestor worked in, he is also working there, and I think that is so nice. But he came to us totally at Maya the Playa, and we had a drawing by Rick, who is an architect, a drawing of a site called Rio Beck. And he says, you know, my great uncle, who was also Merwin, did that site. Well, that's the beginning of our friendship and the beginning of his involvement, because we don't let people go easily once we grab him. I am so happy to introduce to everyone Keith Merlin.
And tonight, I have spoken before about Humboldt and some other things, but tonight, what I'm going to talk about is cotton in Mesoamerica. Now, when we talk about Mesoamerican agriculture, most people think of corn or chocolate. But cotton is not only pelletized in Mesoamerica, but I'm going to argue, as we take a look at some of the modern aspects of it, that the most important crop involved in Mesoamerica is cotton. Okay? Now, when we think about cotton today, this is an ad for cotton, the fabric of our lives. Today, cotton makes up an enormous amount of the types of fabrics that are produced. In fact, if we take a look at it, whenever cotton is the most widely used fiber in the world, 50% of global fiber is cotton. Wool, silk, and flax together provide only 10%. So pretty much anything, everybody at all times is wearing some cotton, is what the cotton industry wants to tell you, and it's true based on the number. 70% of men's and boys' clothes are cotton. Durability and things like that draw on that. Almost 100% of towels and washcloths are cotton, and 90% of bed linens. And if you stop and think about poplin and a variety of other names besides cotton that are really made out of cotton, then you can understand the breadth of what it does. Cotton, many of us will tie it back in history to this. This bale of cotton comes from the United States during the Civil War era when it was called King Cotton. And there's a miniature up here of the bale. A standard bale today is identical to this bale. It's 500 pounds of raw cotton. The seeds are still in it. It's just been taken off of the plant and is ready to go to the gin. And so from this is what all production numbers are taken. So a cotton bale today looks like this, where it comes plastic wrap. Although this is not the standard form today, and we'll see in a second what that is. It's still 500 pounds. It's about 54 inches in length and 22 inches wide, and it's about 33 inches. So it's a pretty big thing and weighs 500 pounds. And from that, that's how it was processed for many years. Today, they do a module. And basically, you take a look at this, and in many parts of the United States, you'll see these on the side of a field. This module is 7.5 feet by 9 to 10 feet tall and 32 feet long. It contains 13 to 15 bales. Basically, this is a semi-container of cotton. So the new modern cotton equipment picks the cotton and then shakes it into this and drops it, ready to be picked up by a semi. And in the case of the United States, predominantly for that container to then go overseas, because we export most of our cotton in this form. And most cotton used when products are produced out of cotton here is then re-imported after it's been processed. So why is cotton so important? Well, this book I found, Cotton is a World Power, Studying the Economic Interpretation of History, was produced during World War I in the United Kingdom. It was published in the United States about 3 years later, and is a 500-page study of the involvement in cotton in the world economy. This quote from it gives us some idea at around 1912, 1913, because that's the numbers that they had, what we're looking at. You take a look at just the raw numbers down here. The value of 11-year cotton crop is in pounds, 1 billion pounds. And the value of all the gold and silver mined worldwide at that time is 1 billion even. So the 1 billion pounds, 1.6 billion pounds of cotton is 50% greater than all precious metals mined worldwide. And at that instant in time, 3/4 of the world's production in cotton came from the United States. So they go on and tell us that what this single southern commodity did was create a flow of gold from Western governments into the United States as the product cotton goes over. And they give us an idea of that. In 1912, 26.1% of the total value of all domestic production in the United States that was exported was cotton. So when they refer to king cotton, they mean it. That's how much of the money that was being earned internationally by U.S. products was in cotton. And this was, of course, 1912. Things must have changed dramatically since then. They haven't changed at all. If we look at cotton production in the world today, now these are 480-pound bales, and that's just how they do a measurement to make it easier for some of the math. The top 5 producers in the world: China, 30 million bales; India, 29 million. The United States is 17 million, is third, with Pakistan and Brazil bringing in fourth and fifth. The difference here is the bulk of the Chinese and Indian cotton is not only inferior in quality, because that's what they're trying to produce, but it's also for internal use in very specific areas, which we'll see in a minute. The bulk of U.S. cotton is high grade, high quality for export as a profitable product. So even though we're third in production and export value, we're first by a long shot. And all of this involves the type of cotton we're going to be talking about. In the United States, just again to give you some ideas, 19 million bales, 17 southern states called the Cotton Belt, which basically runs from Florida and Georgia all the way to California to produce cotton. The largest producer, Texas, does in a 3-year average around 6 million bales a year. 18,500 farms in the U.S. grow cotton commercially. There is no cotton subsidy, by the way. One bale contains enough cotton to produce 1,200 men's t-shirts or 313,600 $100 bills. It's a lot of cotton. Roughly 50% of our cotton is exported either right after being picked or right after being ginned, the seeds removed. Cotton is the highest revenue per acre crop in the United States, and there's only been 2 years in the last 175 that it hasn't been. And those were caused by failures of the cotton crop due to boll weevils. The value of the cotton crop is $27 billion, with the total economic value being about $120 billion a year. It's an incredibly valuable crop. Gossypium is the genus for cotton. There's between 47 and 50 known species. Different people have different lists. Some of them, they list it as something as a species. Others list it as a subset of another species, and so forth. But only 4 species are grown commercially worldwide. And we're going to take a look at those 4 and the 2 most significant. The first 2 make up 2% of world production. And these 2 are Arbium and Herbicum. And one, the Arbium, is called tree cotton, which is a misnomer, but it has the look of the plant, does it, and it's native to India and Pakistan. The other, Levant cotton, Herbicum, comes from the semi-arid region of sub-Saharan Africa and Arabia, and this is the cotton. These 2 are the cottons that were known in the old world when Columbus, who you may or may not know, his father was a tailor, came to the United States, came to the U.S., the New World. So when he saw cotton, he couldn't believe it. The cotton he saw had nothing to do with this cotton. This cotton is far inferior, and that's why it only makes up 2% of the world production today. The next most common cotton species got the name that it uses today from the island of Barbados. It is one of the terms used for it you frequently see is sea island cotton. This extra long staple cotton, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute, basically is just the length of the cotton fibers, is the highest quality cotton. And it comes, as far as they can tell, although it started in a very broad area, the oldest samples are from Ecuador and Peru. And 4200 BC is about the aging that they can tell from the samples that they have. And it makes up about 8% worldwide. It would make up more because it's very valuable, except for the fact that it's harder to grow. Now, this picture shows a pre-Hispanic grave in Peru, and what you see in the upper area up here is cotton balls. They stuffed their mummies with cotton to absorb the fluids. They often soak them in chemicals as well as part of the preservation process. And so when this grave was robbed, they removed all the cotton and just decorated the grave. One of the reasons we have good samples from here is it's a very arid area, and so it's preserved it very well. Now, as I said, it's high quality. It's known as Sea Island, American Pima, Egyptian Giza, and a variety of other names. And we see it often with a Sioux Pima, which uses the Pima Indian name, because this was a type of cotton they did, and it's Egyptian cotton. The cotton known in Egypt up until the time of Napoleon is the first cotton that we saw. He wiped it out almost completely. The reason was this cotton was so much better, and he knew cotton could be grown well in Egypt, so he imported American cotton. Then the English started mass production of it during the American Civil War to try and replace their losses from not being able to get cotton from the U.S. And so Egyptian cotton isn't Egyptian. It's from Mesoamerica. Now, Gossypium is the last cotton, and it makes up about 90% of the worldwide production. It's called also upland cotton or Mexican cotton because it comes from Mexico. It is also the oldest known cotton that's been cultivated for sure, and samples over 5,000 years have been found, mostly in caves in central Mexico. And it's the samples from the caves are virtually identical to what is now being grown commercially. This map gives us an idea. As I was saying, this is the extra long staple, and you'll see that coloring goes over an enormous area, including into the Mesoamerican area, and into the Sea Islands where it would get its later name. The Gossypium, the most common, the Mexican cotton, covers this area in its origins from what they've been able to tell through DNA research. But the only two types of cotton that in the world produce 98% of the most valuable crop, both come from the Mesoamerican area. And even the testing has shown that what was developed in Peru and Ecuador originally had not reached its highest quality, what we know today, until it was being produced in this area. Because their crossbreeding and their selection, and we'll talk in a little bit about why that was, because it's contrary to what we see today for cotton. A couple of the terms, a boll, which I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the mummies in Peru, is the segmented pod, which contains as many as 32 immature seeds along with the cotton fibers. Lint is the general name for the raw fiber. A staple is the long fibers, and they're from the first ginning. They're the longest fibers, and when you pull the fibers away from it, they're what you get first. Linters, and our word lint comes from the shorter fibers that are extracted during the second ginning. They're the fibers, they're shorter, they have a greater attachment to the seed, and they require a second removal from the seed. Linters are incredibly valuable. Linters nowadays are used in cellulose nitrate, fingernail polishes, gunpowders, rocket propellants, paper. When you hear of cloth paper, think of currency or anything like that, that's what it's made out of. Even European currency, which everybody thinks is man-made and plastic, is still approaching 70% cotton fibers. They can't get the strength in any man-made fiber. So film, X-rays, tapes, packaging, food casings, yeah, you're eating it when you eat your sausage and frankfurters. You're also eating in other areas over here, you'll see. And it's in your mattress and yarns and medical grade cotton, of course. So today, they still use cotton balls or still real cotton. They just haven't found a way to produce it. And we brush your teeth and eat ice cream. These are used to thicken it, to give it body, and to give it shape and form. And because they can be eaten and they cause no issues or problems and they're totally natural, they're very easily and readily approvable by federal government and other government. So that's why they use them in food products. But that's also why it makes even the tiniest little linter valuable. So, extra long staple. Basically, the length of that first group of fibers sets the value of the overall type of cotton. If it's very long, 1 3/8 inch or longer, or about 34.9 millimeters, is the high-end cotton. And again, this only makes up a small percentage, about 8% or less, for world production. Long staples, which is 1 1/8 inch, but less than 1 3/8 inches, so not a lot of variation there, but still, this is important. And then short staple. Now, prior to around 1900, almost all cotton was short staple. Extra long staple existed, Sea Island cotton and all these, and its relatives existed, and it actually was the largest production within like the South in the antebellum era. But the issue here was where the length of the staple became most important was in mechanical weaving. Because the longer the fiber was, as long as it maintains its strength, the easier it was to machine weave. Whereas shorter fibers weren't as big of an issue when you were doing manual weaving. So most of the production in the old days was into shorter staples. Now, I've got samples over here in some containers that later, if you're in the room, you're more than willing to look at. But this section, I want to explain where it comes from. We mentioned Maya de Playa, which is a conference in Flagler Beach, Florida, that's done every year, and we just had the 9th one. When I was at one in the past, and they were talking about cotton in Mesoamerica, particularly Mayan cotton, there's two things they said that struck me as unusual, and I wanted to learn more about it. One is the Maya grew cotton on trees. Now, what they really meant by that was if you plant it that way and work it that way, all of the native cottons to the Americas will grow for as long as 15 to 20 years before the plant dies. We don't do that anymore. We basically kill the plant in one way or another before we harvest the cotton. So I was curious, okay, so why that happened and what's going on there. But the second thing was that they estimate now from their research that approximately 50% of the cotton produced in pre-Columbian times was colors. In yellows, browns, reds, and even in blue. And so that sounded really interesting. A natural cotton in a color. And when I started taking a look at it and researching it, looking through the Department of Agriculture and others, I found that they still exist and there's no problem in finding the seeds and growing it. And I did grow about 3 plants of each color that I was able to find, and that's what you'll see in the samples and you'll see in a lot of the pictures. The reason that colored cotton until in the last 10 years has not been commercially produced is because, for the most part, it's a lot easier to grow all the cotton right, weave it, and then dye the cloth than it is to grow colored cotton, which is going to come in a bunch of different colors, even if you're growing a specific color like this, the natural brown, which is called nankeen. It's also called coyote. In Mexico, it's grown commercially and it's called coyote. And the problem is that you're going to see a large variation in the color. And so that means if you're trying to produce a standardized cloth, it's harder to do. So while naturally colored cottons have a lot of benefits and are now ending up back in the organic markets and everything else like that, they had a lot of problems for mass production and mechanical production, and that's why they went out of production years ago. So our first color, naturally brown cotton, which you can see here, this is a description from the Southern Exposure Seed Exchange where I got these seeds. The lint is non-fading, attractive, dark copper color that actually becomes brighter as you wash it. It not only won't wash away, it becomes more and more darker and coppery looking the longer you work the fiber. This is the plant. This is a cotton flowers come in 4 or 5 colorations, from all white, you'll see that, to all red, to this almost variegated variety. But this is actually, each of these that are grouped with one, these are actually nankeen. So you can see the bulbs over here, This is what one looks like after it erupts, which is what they call it whenever the bowl splits. Here's the cotton, so there's seeds buried in this. This is what's left of the bowl and will be separated from it. So here we have two different fiber lengths, and these are the seeds with the linters on it still. All this was separated by hand. So you can see the darker area for the longer fibers, the lighter color area for the medium or shorter fibers, and then the linters are again very dark and they surround the seed. Now, the reason that we gin cotton still in the United States and elsewhere is because the linters are so valuable, like we said, for certain products, but also the seed is very, very valuable. The oil of a cotton seed is the most valuable of all normally produced natural oils. I flew in today on a jet. The turbine for that jet was lubricated with cottonseed oil. Okay? No, that's the only thing that jet engine turbines are lubricated with. Okay? It will survive very high temperatures. It doesn't mix with water and hydraulic fluid. Reasons certain types of machining and turbines, that's what it's used for. So it's extremely expensive in its purest forms once it's been done. And so gin is to get that out, separate it, purify it, and then sell it as an oil product. Early green is an olive green cotton. As they suggested, it is, of course, a Gossypium, so Mexican cotton, that it's like spun off the seed is an indicator that they did that. It means it was bred so that it would remove from the seed easily. And they think that the reason is it needs to be harvested shortly after it's open, because the fiber will fade in the sun. It won't fade as much after it's washed. So they needed to harvest it, separate it from the seeds, wash it, and then it would set color-wise. And so they developed it this way. It's a yellowish green. There's some over there. You see it in these pictures. It's an all-white flower.
What size are these flowers?
About a quarter, in size. There are larger ones and smaller ones, but most of them. And if you look here, you'll notice that the bolls are here. That the flower and the bolls are not necessarily at the same. They can be at the same time. It isn't the flower. It comes, the flowers leave, and then you have the bowl. Although it is a development from that, but on the plant they'll rotate. They'll go through. And again, like I was saying, something I didn't realize is the way that it works today, everywhere, but we'll talk about in the United States. One of the reasons that cotton production has moved away from places like Florida and Georgia is the most common way to produce cotton nowadays is to plant the crop, grow the crop, and let a cold snap, preferably a freeze, but it doesn't have to be a freeze, it can be just a frost, kill the plant. And then you can come through and harvest all of the cotton. Because any unexploded bolls will explode whenever the cold hits. So now you can come through and harvest it all in the fastest, easiest manner. In the deep south, and in some parts of Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, and everything, if you don't get that cold snap when you need it, and it's time to do it, then you have to spray the crop, which of course has a cost, and potentially could damage your cotton in order to kill the plant. Because these plants are very strong and resilient. And so if they don't kill the plant before they try and harvest it, it's very hard on the equipment, and it's difficult on the selection, on the separation of the cotton from the plant. So when they do spray it, they don't overspray like you think a crop does. They have to come along and spray at the ground level so that they don't get the herbicide on the cotton crop, and hit it at just the right time and just the right way to kill the plant, so that they can then come through and harvest it before the crop falls in to the ground where it'll pick up the poisons. So it's complicated. They didn't do that. They were growing a plant that they planted and let grow for years. And one of the things that at the University of Texas's research they started to figure out is one of the issues they had with this development, especially in the colors, was how did they do this? It's required an enormous amount of cross-pollination and selection and everything else. Then they realized if they were growing them for many years, then what you did was you planted it, it grew. If it was the color you wanted, if it was the size you wanted, especially an extra long staple, you kept it. If it wasn't, you pulled the plant out. As soon as you had a good crop that you could still use, you got rid of it and planted a new one. Because it was still going to be only 4 to 5 months before you had another one. But in many parts of Mexico and Guatemala and a couple areas in there, this can grow virtually year-round. Now, one of the other things, and one of the other reasons we'll see later that they think it's tied into how they viewed a lot of things in rituals, is this crop has to have a ton of drought. And so it was a crop that grew best in heavy rain, followed by long droughts. And so they felt the crop fit their land. And that's one of the reasons that they seem to use so much of it. So here we have the white. The red foliated white, even though it's called that, the cotton is actually white. The plant has a red tinge to it, you can see here, and you'll see it more later. It has dark red stems and leaf edges, you see in here. It's about 3 feet tall. Grows well in a container or a flower bed. Again, it's clearly made to grow in a sandy soil and not expecting a lot of water and so forth and a lot of nutrients. It's green when it emerges. It develops a red coloring in the plant. The cotton is a short, stable white and is commercially grown and grown by certain low-end commercial groups because it's extremely strong. And the strength of the staple is important. So you can see here the red flower, the red stem. Once the flower opens, it will turn white. And you'll get a tinged red to the overall white flower. And so here's bolls developing after the flowers dropped off. So it opens, you get a flower petals fall off, and then the bulb develops. And they don't do it all at once, and you can have it over a very long period of time. So here's another flower that's developing. And then it's gone, and you can see the immature bulb here developing. And here we have it. So here's the white cotton that comes with it and a separated out piece. You can see the white developing here and how it is with the bulb development area. So there, close up that area as it starts to get larger. And now you can see how it's taken over. As the back of the flower is now smaller. The Maya did have a hieroglyph that appears for cotton. In 1986, John Deinhardt in Mexicon suggested that that's what this mark was. And then wrote about why. This is a headdress. And you'll notice here and here that this is indicated. Now, one of the first things Columbus wrote about was meeting Indians in canoes. Where the canoes loaded with cotton. And he traded for it. And he was extremely pleased with it. They were bats, or basically like thick blanket pieces of the cotton. It's how they processed it. And sort of think of it as a small bale that they then could separate and make things out of, reweave, so to speak. And he was astounded at the quality because nothing in the old world was anything like it. Then as he moved on, he started to see even more of it. Remember, he saw hammocks. That's what they slept in. They were woven from cotton. And they wore loincloths, again from cotton. So he reported the word cotton appears in his first voyage report more than any other single word describing any item in the New World. Partially because he was a tailor's son and he understood cloths and he understood the value of it, but also partially because he was so astounded by it. And in the book I showed you earlier about cotton as a world power. As late as the 1800s, whenever taxes or duty was paid to the government, the most common payment system in Mexico was cotton. And the best examples of early Colombian, the era right after the arrival that we have, are they have located in Spain in the archives samples that were shipped back to the king, and they still exist. So they know what the quality was like and what it was like. So he said, okay, so we have some examples there. Well, then when he saw these, you'll notice there's little marks around the shield, and little marks here and on here, and in a variety of other areas there. Well, we started looking. And when the Spanish described the armor, and particularly the shields, utilized by the native inhabitants, they were made out of cotton. That's how they described it. It was batted and cross-woven to be very thick and very heavy, and they adopted it and utilized it and were surprised at how well it would stop a weapon. So when this is matched to the descriptions, there's a good chance that's what he's showing. Here, we have the goddess, childbirth, medicine, and weaving. You know, I might go ahead and point out, yes, her clothing is the skin of a person. Take a look at that. But if you look at everything else, the headdress and the blanket is all covered in the chevrons, which indicate cotton. In all probability, because that was one of the things she was patron of, was weaving. Now, the Dresden Codex actually also includes them, and that's where he got his drawing from. So on page 67, in the upper half of the page, we have several, and there's one appearance in the lower. So here we have them in several different kinds, and then again appearing on characters that are involved. So they're pretty confident that that was an indication. Now, we know a lot more about Aztec spinning than we do about Maya, but we can interpolate a lot from it because we do have, and you'll see, a spindle and a spindle whorl that many of them that are from the Maya era. So basically, when they spun, it involved a spindle, the upright part, a spindle whorl, a weight that allowed them to spin this evenly and at a right speed, and then a basket or bowl to work with. This is one of the things that spindle whorls look like. They come in different sizes. They're all pretty much the same shape. They're round with a hole in the middle. They come in different weights, which makes sense because as you would have different staples of cotton and different staple lengths and different thicknesses, you would need a different whorl to get the speed that you wanted as you were working. Here are some that are actually from Hamon. And they're one of, if you go out and look, they're one of the most common items found in tombs and as offerings beneath altars and stela and things like that. They're very common items.
And would you say that they were basically for women or even in tombs of kings?
There are.
And did Papal's tomb have any spindles?
I don't know if his did. There are tombs with them.
Okay.
These and Hamon, virtually all the tombs have both men and women in them, so they're hard to determine because there's so many.
Yes.
There's 20 plus skeletons in one tomb structure at Hamon, and there's lots of ceramics and other things, so it makes it a little odd because of how it was. One of the things they do note heavily, if you look at these things are very finely worked.
Yeah.
Okay? These were not something made rapidly in order to be utilized and then discarded. They were very finely made. They were very obviously valued, and they had a selection of them. Again, in all likelihood, this selection was because they needed different ones to go on different spindles for different cotton. But they had value in them, and they considered that value to extend into the next world because they included them as tomb pieces. Now, this is from the Penn Museum, and they had a display for a very long time. I took this picture a couple of years ago on the production of textiles in the Maya region. This is cotton. You'll notice it is coyote. This is what they call a carder. What this is basically is a dried plant, like a cattail type of species, which what this can be used for is you can hold a cotton ball and stroke it, and you would separate the staples and lint from the seeds. Okay, so you may have seen it with wool. We always think of two cards, and that's where the carder comes from. And you put the wool in the middle and went like that with it and separated it out, and you can peel it wet. Same type of thing here. And then we have a spindle with a whirl and then threads around. So here's a giant figure of a weaver with the type. They did not have a spinning wheel. And the type of loom that they had, that we have information on, is a stretch loom, is one of the terms used for it. Several different terms are used for it. But this figure gives you an idea. They're kneeling, they're using a crossbar, and they're pulling down and stretching it out. This is a better picture. They still are used, in the Highlands especially. So we've got a cross piece up here that they're put across, and it's stretched out as they kneel on the piece that holds it taut, and then they can work the stick back up and forth as they work other threads within it to do the weaving. So here, again, we're still at the pen. So here is pieces of one that was found, and they reconstructed it a little bit to show how it goes from one area all the way down until you have a finished design. And this is one of the earliest, we'll see a better picture of this in a minute. This is one of the earliest known samples that is still around. Now, the Aztecs like designs. Now, it existed in the Maya as well, but we have a lot more of these. Here's a monkey and a flower. These are clay, basically molds, that can be dipped in a dye or an ink and then pressed against the cloth to impart the design to it. Here are geometric patterns. So, of course, you can picture these being used all along the bottom edge to give your skirt, dress, whatever cloak, whatever it is, a design that's been basically put into the cloth that way. Now, this is really hard to tell. These are copper. These are shells. There's cotton threads and a cotton cloth beneath it. And this came out of a cenote. Now, this one is not from Chichen Itza. There are ones from that in the Peabody collection, but this one came out of a different one buried in the mud. It was brought out and preserved and is this way. They consider it post-classic era is what it reads in the description, but they don't have an exact dating from it because of the condition that it's in. But it shows that they did elaborate designs and elaborate combinations of things in order to produce these. And we see that in some of the other areas. This panel is from the Gossypium River area. And if we look at this panel, what do we see up here? We see a curtain that's hung. We see, of course, on just about everybody here, cloth in clothing. We see cloth here. So we have multiple indications here of cloth that in all likelihood, given what we know about them and what they had available, would have been cotton. Partially because of the uses and partially because of we're not aware of any other fiber they had that could be so finely worked. Maximum. Here, this is again, this is from one of the Penn's displays in the Lords of Time. And we have a modern use of a caricature that has been clothed in these layers of cloth, and the coloration, the patterns. Here's one of the outfits that men wear during certain rituals or practices. And again, same types of items and cloths and designs as what appear to be indicated on a wide variety of the items that we have in the past that just aren't able to be able to tell exactly, but the similarity is there. Okay, these I found interesting. These are worries. And basically these worry dolls, and they're a small wooden doll, almost a carved stick, that's been clothed in colorful clothing. And as it describes here, in most of this area, especially in Guatemalan folklore, they give these to children. And then what they do is at night, they tell their worries to it, and then they place it under their pillow, and when they wake in the morning, it's taking their worries away. Okay? And the similarities again to the design.
Side table of their shop.
Yeah. Now, this is going into speculation, but something that Rick's looked at and everything else. And whenever he and I were talking sometime back about some of this came up. What I was talking to him about was where they know this long-term cotton production was done in the Yucatan. And this is the Temple of Seven Dolls, so-called because of 7 dolls found underneath it when they were excavating. It's an unusual...
worries.
Yeah, it's a very unusual structure because of its squareness, okay? But Rick's noticed some things that then when we did it, so this is an elevation of it. And when you look at, you see the pieces here that we've added? Because this is how the structure's done. These are the steps and all. Here's the top. So we have steps and all of this. And you notice this and how it fits, how the shape goes with what you're seeing here. It's in the middle of the field. And this is a cotton ball with the cotton root, okay? In the middle of the field that it's in is where several of the experts on cotton from Texas think treed long-term cotton growth was done. And so it's almost like the structure was designed to take on the shape of what they were growing and to be involved in the development of it in this area in a plant that, whereas we plant it every year and harvest it, getting rid of the plant, they planted it and for the next 15 or 20 years harvested almost continuously from it unless they had periods of long rain or long drought, which caused them to lose the plants. At which point, they have to start over again. And so it could be, it's possible that was involved in a ritual involving that or something else. But it's just an interesting aside that sometimes even the structures seem to take on the aspects related to cotton that they were looking at and that they were doing. So when we look at the economic involvement in cotton today, and we look at how we're dependent on cotton, because we are clearly very dependent on cotton, and then we look at Mesoamerica, a place that we really don't normally think of as being where cotton came from, then you can see where it appears they provided something for us beyond corn and chocolate that strongly affects us economically even today. Thank you. Any questions or anything?
Appraisal, which is at 10, all we're going to do is give you a $10 million re-up. And that means we expect you to write a $4 million write-down immediately. Now, where are you going to get that money from? So, I mean, those are some of the challenges that we all have to face during this period. And one of the things we have to do is draw attention to appraisals. So be very, very careful when you're going to make your buy that you have an appraisal that is, and a bank has to, banks are starting to learn that appraisals are full of it. They're even saying that to us. They're saying they're scared, they're not as competent as they used to be, and they're writing down just to protect their backside. And bankers are saying that. So bankers are actually inflating the appraisals, which seems odd to me, but they are, just to help you out a little bit. So there's a bunch of, this is a witch's brew, and there's a lot of stuff in it getting stirred up. So I just want everybody to go at these deals with your eyes wide open, know all the ups and downs, and not just the pretty glossy, pretty new shiny sign that's on top of your building, making you feel like you've got something going on. You may, but just be aware of all the downsides.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes. The question was about starting small for the audience in the back.
I was relating that to the lodging space, right? So we have limited service hotels like Holiday Inn Express or Candlewood that's sort of the low end of extended stay, and they're not as complex and not as big, and all the way up to intercontinentals that could be 700 and 800 rooms, much more complex businesses. And to start with a less complex model and a smaller equity contribution is just less risk for you. So it's just, everyone has a different appetite for risk, but that's the way to sort of